Hey everybody, this is No Bones About Wrestling. I am your host, Asa, and I'm here with Kay Fabulous.
Hey.
And this is your AEW Dynamite Blood and Guts report. It was July 19th, 2023. They were in Beantown, Boston, Massachusetts. And the big match was Blood and Guts, the big main event. 5-on-5, 2 rings, steel cage, containing all the violence, and we will get to that. They gave that the whole second hour of the show. But we had a couple matches before that, so let's cover those. They led off the show. First, there's a segment shown with Jack Perry burying Jungle Boy in the desert.
Well, first they play Jungle Boy's music and his normal entrance thing, and then they interrupt it with this video.
So we're having an FTW championship match. Hook is putting his FTW title belt and his undefeated streak, he's 34-0, putting both on the line against Jack Perry. And, we get Jack Perry's entrance. He doesn't come out. Instead, we get this video. And he's burying the Jungle Boy. He's burying his persona in the desert. I don't know why in the desert. We're in Boston, Massachusetts. But he's burying it in the desert. And then catches a ride in a limo that comes by. So then Perry comes out to Beethoven.
Yep.
So that's what happened. So
and the screens are black when he comes out. Like there's no Titantron video. It doesn't say his name. It's just all black.
Yeah, so that's Perry's new entrance. I don't think it's going to stay his new entrance.
No, I don't like it.
But that's it for now. And so the match begins. Perry charges Hook. He's met with body shots by Hook. And they fight into the crowd, so I guess they got approval for that. They're in the crowd very briefly. Hook clotheslines Perry back over the barrier. Back in the ring now. Perry with an eye poke. And then a top rope drop kick to Hook's head. Perry puts a chokehold on Hook, who gets to his feet, tries to elbow his way out of the chokehold, and gets thrown back down. An Irish whip is reversed. Hook goes into the corner and seems to hurt his lower back. Hook T-bone suplexes Jack Perry from the apron to the floor in the probably the most memorable spot of the match.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of takes a cameraman down with him. And Perry hits a DDT on the outside as well. Perry German suplexes, I say as well. I should not have said as well. Perry hits a DDT on the outside. Perry German suplexes Hook to a no-sell by Hook. Hook then German suplexes Perry for a 2 count. German suplexes him again. Again, only gets a 2 count. At this point, Perry mule kicks Hook, meaning he kicks him backwards in the nuts, kicks, between his legs in the nuts for the 2 count. Then there's a ref bump in the corner. So we've seen several close counts here. We've seen a low blow that didn't get it done. Now the ref's down. Hook suplexes Perry and gets the pin. The crowd counts all the way up to 7. So the match should be over. It's at this point that Perry grabs the FTW belt and blasts Hook with it. He covers him. 1, 2, 3. Jack Perry is the new FTW champion. He is only the 6th man ever to hold that belt. In ECW, there were 2 men. There was Taz, who invented the belt. He said, if you're not going to give me a world title shot, I'll invent my own title. FTW, standing for Fuck the World title. FTW, Fuck the World. So Taz was the first. Sabu won it from Taz. Only one time when Taz knocked out Sabu and put Sabu's arm over himself to give the belt to Sabu. A very strange happening, but that's what happened. So Taz, Sabu, and then in AEW, Brian Cage had it, Ricky Starks had it, Hook had it, and now Jack Perry. So only 6 men have had the belt.
And this is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is Hook's first loss as a singles wrestler, right?
Correct. Hook is now 34-1. This is his first loss.
Interesting.
So big win for Jack Perry. Jack Perry's first singles championship. Hook's first singles loss. Good match between these two. Mm-hmm. They matched up well. I give it 4 bones out of 5. Kay, what do you have to say about this FTW championship match?
I enjoyed the match overall. There was some great heel work by Perry throughout the match. Like, even before the match started, he was kind of jaw-jacking with some small children outside the ring. And then once the match started, he actually continued with that. Rake to the eyes, the mule kick, the belt hit. Just really good heel work sprinkled throughout. That I also think helped those of us that wanted to see Hook win and retain to be able to say, like, well, if he hadn't cheated, he wouldn't have won, you know. So I always appreciate that. At one point, there was a great use of the ropes by Perry to apply more pressure. Hook was laying over the middle rope with his neck and arms dangling over, and Perry stood, like, between his shoulder blades with both feet and then lifted the top rope up to really get that extra pressure. And I just thought it was a really clever use of the ropes. And then my final thoughts, this should have been on Battle of the Belts 7 instead of the Dynamite following Battle of the Belts 7. Because on Battle of the Belts, nothing happened. Like, no belts changed hands. The matches were nothing to write home about. If they knew they were going to do this, why not put it on your special belt show to make the show actually somewhat special? You know, it just seemed odd, like an odd booking choice.
I hear you. I agree. At least, because on Battle of the Belts, I wouldn't agree. There wasn't anything to write home about. I mean, there were some good matches on that show, but nothing. It was a show you could miss because, as you said, nothing quote unquote happened. There weren't any title changes.
It felt like a rampage.
I wouldn't say that.
I say it.
I mean, there were 3 title matches. That's not a rampage. So, no, you're wrong.
They've done that on Rampage before.
Well, it wasn't a rampage, so you're wrong. It didn't feel like a rampage.
It did to me.
Well, you're wrong. There were 3 title matches. But you are right that they should have put this on Battle of the Belts so that they could have had 1 title change. Yeah, definitely. But, yeah, good match. And Jack Perry, working heel, he looked good. He had some energy behind him, and it seemed like this new style that he's working has given him kind of some renewed energy that maybe he was missing.
I agree.
So we'll see where this heel Jack Perry goes. I'm not sure it's all come together quite yet, but in the ring it's good. I'm not sure the presentation is there quite yet. You know, he needs more than just a black leather jacket doesn't really make you a heel. Or does it? Does it? Maybe it does.
I mean, if you're an animal rights activist, maybe.
Right. But we'll see. We'll see where they get the presentation down to. Maybe past black leather jacket and sunglasses equals bad guy. Maybe they can get past that. But yeah, good match and a new FTW champion in Jack Perry. Up next, Alex Marvez is following Chris Jericho as he is dining shirtless with Don Callis. And when I say shirtless, they're in a restaurant and Chris Jericho is wearing a leather jacket with no shirt. A security guard comes, finds Alex Marvez, and turns off the camera. So Jericho and Callis meeting about something, and we don't know what. One can only speculate. It has to do with Don Callis' quote-unquote wrestling family that he's trying to put together,
I mean,
which right now only includes Konosuke Takeshita.
They're smiling and like laughing and seeming like they're having a good time together. So,
yeah.
Interesting.
Up next, we get a recap video of MJF and Adam Cole's newest round of hanging out together. Adam Cole says that he learned MJF had a fear of spicy food, so he takes MJF to a Chinese restaurant to feed him spicy foods.
I thought it was a Hawaiian restaurant.
I think it was Chinese.
They had tiki cups and Lays on the table.
I thought it was a Chinese restaurant.
Oh, I don't know. They had Lays on the table and tiki cups.
I think they're like Hawaiian themed Chinese restaurants.
Oh, okay.
I could be very wrong about this, but I think it was a Chinese place.
Okay.
But yeah, so MJF tells Cole the story about body slamming Big Bill during the tag team tournament, and Adam Cole's like, "Dude, I was there." You know, it's pretty funny. And they're eating their spicy Chinese food, and they're, playing about how hot it is, and they get drinks, and they're asking the waiter, "Bring me water," or bring me a drink. And then the waiter's like, "That was 100% alcohol." And then they're like, "What?" And it's a comedy bit, and it's silly. And then they come back to it a minute later, and MJF is they cut, and a jump cut, not a jump cut, a fade. And so time has passed, and now MJF is telling the story about Big Bill again, but now he's drunk. And so now Big Bill weighs, 629 pounds, and it was in front of 99,000 people at the Saskatoon Silver Dome, which is not the name of the arena. So it was pretty funny. And at the end of it all, for whatever reason, I don't remember, at the end of it all, MJF and Adam Cole, who are both wearing their Better Than You Bebe shirts, they double clothesline the Chinese waiter.
Yeah, it seems kind of mean.
I forget why they double clotheslined him, but they did it.
Well, one of them thought that it was Ricky Starks, and then the other one thought that it was Sammy Guevara.
The waiter?
Yes.
Oh, okay. But it was a funny bit, that's for sure. It wasn't as funny as last week with all the birthday stuff and everything. Was that last week?
I think that was the week before.
Well, it was funny. It was funny, though. Next, Don Callis and Chris Jericho arrive to the arena in a limo and insult Alex Marvez, as he's still trying to find out what's going on between these two.
It's kind of like stalking them at this point.
That's what reporters got to do to get a story,
I guess that's true.
It's free press. Up next, the only women's match or segment of the night is a squash match. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, beats Kayla Sparks in what felt like under 2 minutes.
It was definitely under 2 minutes.
Beat her with a lockjaw. Kayla Sparks submits very quickly. And that was it. Nothing else having to do with the women all night.
No.
So that sucks.
Yeah. Like, at least give us, like, a promo if you're not giving us a match.
Well, what I said, you could have taken 5 minutes off of the Blood and Guts match.
Mm-hmm.
You take, 1 minute off of the FTW match. You take 2 minutes off the tag match, and there you got an 8-minute women's match there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least do that much. Done. And it wouldn't have hurt anything. You could have done every other thing you did, and it wouldn't have hurt a thing.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. I don't get it. So this was an excellent episode of Dynamite. Don't get me wrong. But that's my only complaint about this episode, is that there wasn't enough women's stuff. Like, one squash match that was under 2 minutes is your only women's content? That's pretty shitty. Up next, MJF and Adam Cole are with Renee. And it turns out that MJF got them matching trunks to wear. Also turns out Adam Cole got them matching jackets to wear for the ring entrance. And Cole said he also has a surprise in mind. And MJF says, "Oh man, what is it? Don't do that to me." And then the two walk off and they're happy and they're giddy. And Roderick Strong comes by and comes calling for Adam Cole, but Cole's too far gone and can't hear him, and Roderick Strong is just left there looking stupid, frankly.
Yeah. I forgot what he said. He had like a one-line delivery, and it was just not
Oh,
good.
it was terrible.
It was not good at
terrible.
all.
I forget what his delivery was. Up next, the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament Final. So the winners receive World Tag Team title shot. I think they said July 29th on Collision. Let me see.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, on Collision against FTR. Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara taking on world champion MJF and his partner Adam Cole. Cole, turns out the surprise is Cole has commissioned a mix of their music, a mashup, I guess you call it, of their music, and MJF loves it. And they're coming down, and MJF high-fiving fans just looks wrong. I wrote, it just does. It's weird.
I like it.
It's weird. And before this match starts, Garcia does his weird dancing, and MJF, in response, does the weird dancing back. And then MJF starts asking the crowd, he's like, "You want to see a dance-off?" And the crowd, of course, is like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to see a dance-off?" "Yeah." So then MJF goes over near the timekeeper's table, and on some audio panel, hits a button that starts like disco music and lights. And then Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara do a dance routine.
Yeah, like a choreographed dance routine.
A poorly choreographed disco dance routine. Yeah. And then after that, MJF does his own, and then he tries to get Adam Cole to dance, but Adam Cole just does a lot of crotch thrusting.
Yeah, Adam Cole was bad.
And then there's a record scratch, even though this is obviously digital music. But there's a record scratch, and the music stops. And then Guevara and Garcia attack MJF and Adam Cole before the bell.
What are your thoughts on the dance-off?
It was stupid.
Yeah.
And unnecessary, and yeah, that's it. Really,
I agree
stupid
with
and unnecessary.
both those points.
I didn't find it entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me either.
I found it silly, and yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I'm all for comedy in wrestling, but
It needs to be funny.
it needs to be funny. That's the thing. If it's not funny, it goes really. It can go really badly if it's not funny,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not. Comedy isn't inherent to wrestling, really, at all,
Mm-hmm.
Like, being funny is not a part of fighting. It's not a part of having a grudge and fighting, which is what all this stuff is about. So, it just feels when it falls flat, when it doesn't work, it just feels so forced because it is so forced,
Yeah.
And that's how this felt to me. Just was dumb and a waste of time. The crowd seemed to love it.
We could have cut that and given that time to the women's matches. Cut the stupid dance
Exactly,
off.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the crowd in Boston seemed to love it. Didn't do anything for me, though. Let's see. So, Guevara starts by working on MJF. He tags in Garcia, keeping MJF in the corner. Garcia hits a jumping knee drop on MJF. Guevara back in, suplexes MJF. Jumps off the top rope. Guevara is on the top rope, and MJF is trying to get to Cole. Guevara jumps off the top rope to run and keep MJF from tagging in Cole. Guevara and Garcia try a double clothesline. Cole gets tagged in. Cole super kicks Garcia. Sammy Guevara springboards into a super kick. Cole tags in MJF. Guevara ducks a double clothesline and hits a double Spanish fly. Stupid. Double Spanish fly it's like impossible to be able to do that to two men. That's a stupid fucking move. Daniel Garcia comes in. Double chop block. Now that makes sense. You could take out two men's knees because all you gotta do is hit two knees. You can do that. I could do that. That makes sense. Garcia puts a sharpshooter on Cole. Cole gets MJF to hit a tope suicida. Cole is convincing MJF to dive out because Garcia and Guevara are both outside the ring. He's telling him to dive, and he gets the whole crowd in Boston to tell MJF to dive. And he gets MJF to dive out and hit a tope suicida, and then MJF gets up and he just looks in wonderment. He can't believe what he's just done, that he hit this dive through the ropes, and he's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. And he's filled with power now that he's done it. Back in the ring, Adam Cole hits a Panama Sunrise on Daniel Garcia, and Cole and MJF hit a double clothesline for the pin and the win. Very good match. 4 bones out of 5. And MJF and Adam Cole get a World Tag Team title shot on Collision July 29th against FTR. Kay, what do you have to say about this match?
I really enjoyed this match. I also thought the dancing was really stupid. But after that was over, I thought the match itself was very good.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that Sammy and Garcia did a good job of keeping MJF from tagging in the first half of the match. They did a really good job splitting the ring.
Yeah, they worked well together.
I also wrote down that the double Spanish fly by Sammy was dumb. Kind of took me out of the match by its stupidity.
Exactly.
And
that's the thing is about those types of moves. You know, is the whole thing is now. You know, now we all know it's predetermined and all. We all know everyone's cooperating with these moves, but to have fun with it, we suspend our disbelief.
Mm.
You know, at least that's what I do.
Yeah.
I suspend my disbelief. And I act as though, and try to get in the mind frame as though they're actually fighting in there while I'm watching it.
Yeah.
And when I see a move like a double Spanish fly, a move that one man has grabbed 2 men and is doing a backflip, taking both of their body weight with him, no.
Yeah.
It's absurd. Those kinds of moves. Those kinds of moves that are physically improbable need to be done away with, because all it does is take people out of the match, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Like, that's what it does for me. It just takes me out of the match and said, that's really fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not thinking about the next move you're doing. I'm just thinking about how dumb what the last one was.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I agree.
And it takes me a bit to get back into the match because I'm just thinking about how dumb that was and why'd they think they should do that, and you know.
Yeah, definitely pulls you out for a while.
Yeah.
In regards to MJF's dive to the outside, if you don't follow MJF on Twitter, you totally should, because it's delightful always. But he posted a black and white photo of him doing the dive, saying throwback. And then I'm going to read the quote that accompanies the photo. I hit the greatest dive in the history of our sport to win the Blind Eliminator Tag Tournament in front of 500,000 screaming devil worshippers in the original Boston Garden, brother.
So it was in front of 8,000 people in the new Boston Garden.
Yes, yeah. So I thought that was a nice touch in continuing the story.
That's funny.
Yeah, and I was excited that they got the double clothesline for the pin and the win. Mm-hmm. So those are my thoughts on the match.
So they're getting the tag team title shot against FTR. Mm-hmm. Do you want them to win?
Yes, I do.
Should they win?
Probably not.
Why not?
Well, did you talk about after the match yet?
Not yet. No.
Okay. Well, I think we will see, as Asa will soon tell us, we will see that there are cracks starting to form in this beautiful, friendly facade. And I feel like if they win the tag titles, they're not going to keep that facade together long enough to warrant getting the titles.
Yeah. So what happens after the match? Jericho is waiting for. He's been on commentary, and he's waiting for Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia at the top of the ramp, and they walk right past him. You know, he's waiting for them, not to scold them, like he's waiting for them, like to be like, good job, guys, get them next time. You know, like it's obvious that's the kind of vibe he's coming at them with. But they just walk right past him. So the Jericho Appreciation Society looks like it is in its waning days here. You know, Jericho, so he's had Jake Hager turn in his hat. He's had Garcia and Guevara walk right past him. So all that's left is Menard and Parker and a JAS.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen with the Jericho Appreciation Society. So back in the ring, MJF gets mad at Adam Cole for picking up the world title belt. But they hug it out after the crowd chants for them to hug it out, and they do. And MJF, he hugs it out with Cole, and then as soon as Cole is done hugging it out, MJF coldly stares at Cole afterwards. And then FTR comes down, and they face off with MJF and Cole, just showing them that they're not scared of them, and kind of showing them they're ready for the challenge.
You know, in MJF's defense, Adam Cole is picking up the belts to hand it to MJF. He definitely takes like a long, longing stare at the belt on his slow way to turn to hand it to MJF. So I don't feel like he's totally out of line there, you know?
But yeah, we saw, and it was fun, you know, we've seen like this fun, goofy MJF lately. He totally snapped and changed.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. You know, and it shows the one thing about MJF that has not changed is that the thing he most values in the world is the world heavyweight title.
Yeah.
He didn't want anybody messing with that or messing with his chances to keep it. Mm-hmm. So that's the first crack we've seen in this MJF and Adam Cole team.
Yeah.
So it looks like to me, it looks like we're headed to seeing MJF versus Adam Cole at All In. If that's not what they're doing August 27th at All In, I don't know what else they're doing for the world title. To me, it looks like that has to be what they're doing. They have time to do something else.
Yeah.
And they have plenty of time. But it seems like that's what they're doing. I mean, we're, 5 weeks out? So...
only
so
time
we'll
will
see.
tell.
Yeah. MJF versus Cole looks like what they're doing at All In, though. The few matches I could say I think we're seeing at All In are MJF versus Cole, and I feel like we're going to see Jericho versus Sting.
Mm-hmm.
And past that, I'm really not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm really not sure. I feel like we might get Omega versus Ospreay again.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I feel like we may see that. And then past that, I'm not sure.
That's the one that I feel like the most confident on.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. Like I said, FTR come down. They face off with MJF and Cole. And as the segment ends, MJF and Cole, the new mix, the mashup of their music plays. And Dax Harwood looks into the camera and he says, "Hey, Tony," speaking to Tony Khan, he says, "Hey, Tony, play our music next time. We're the champs." So that was pretty funny, I thought.
Yeah.
Kind of a good point, too,
Plus, their music's so awesome.
Yeah, FTR...
nothing against the mashup, but FTR's music
FTR has some pretty
best.
sweet music. It's supposed to be a throwback. It's like the Midnight Express 80s tag team music.
That's great.
It's supposed to be like the Midnight Express music, I think. All right. Up next, we had a recap of Collision, of that awesome 5-bone, 2 out of 3 fall tag team title match where FTR retained the titles over Jay White and Juice Robinson, who I feel like should have won the belts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
I think fans need some sort of showing that Jay White and Juice Robinson are something special. They're not just here,
Yeah.
But whatever, they lost, so FTR still the champions. And it was an awesome match. And it also has a recap of Ricky Starks winning the men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament and Willow Nightingale winning the women's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Then we have Renee Paquette with half the damn roster. She's with Best Friends, Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, TBS champion Chris Statlander, and Nick Wayne. All together. And they say Statlander is defending her TBS title against Marina Shafir on Rampage. So that's cool. Best Friends are getting a Ring of Honor World Tag Team title shot at Death Before Dishonor, the pay-per-view, on the 21st. And Darby Allin and Nick Wayne are in Royal Rampage on the 21st. No?
Yeah.
Yeah, Friday the 21st. And Darby is talking to Orange Cassidy, and he says that there's someone who, when he was homeless, let him sleep on his couch, and that's A.R. Fox. And he asks Orange Cassidy if he'll give A.R. Fox an international title shot. And of course, Orange Cassidy's like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So I think they say next week on Dynamite, but I'm not clear. I'm not sure.
They said next week. They didn't specify on Dynamite, but I feel like that was implied.
I think they said next week on Dynamite, Orange Cassidy versus A.R. Fox, but I'm not sure. And so they're hyping up Royal Rampage, and what it is, it's a battle royal, 20 men, 2 rings. It's taped after Dynamite. They keep the 2 rings set up, and the winner gets a TNT title shot. So that's pretty cool.
What's weird, though, is last year it was a world title shot.
Yeah,
So
last year Brody
been,
King of the House of Black won and got a world title shot.
So it's been downgraded a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Also coming up on, and so that's happening on Rampage this Friday, the Royal Rampage. Also coming up on Rampage, QTV, we're having a trios match. The team of QTV, which is QT Marshall, Johnny TV, and Aaron Solo, take on the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass. And, of course, QTV accompanied by Harley Cameron. And I'll tell you, we saw the AAA Triple Mania 31 from Tijuana last weekend, and QT Marshall had a match against Penta El Cerro Miedo. And it was an ambulance match, Ambulancio. And QT Marshall beat the shit out of him, out of Penta. Beat him with light bulbs, beat him with cookie pans, beat him with a steel chair. What else did he beat him with?
Well, he handcuffed him to the ring. I feel like there was a kendo stick at one point. There was like a 2x4 with barbed wire wrapped around it that he mushed into his forehead at one point.
Was there?
Yeah.
He beat the shit out of him.
Because he did that like right before he shoved him into the crowd. Because I was like horrified that all the blood was going where the crowd was.
Yeah, man. And QT Marshall, they had some angle where Penta had a stalker in AAA. And then it was revealed that QT Marshall had been the stalker. And so they set up this ambulance match. And it ended when QT, put Penta's ass in the ambulance and won the match. And then hopefully they took Penta to the hospital because he got his ass kicked.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, he did get, Aaron Solo was there, so it did take two men handcuffing him and beating his ass to beat him. So it wasn't a fair fight. But QT Marshall did win.
Yeah, I think Aaron Solo at one point sprays him with a fire extinguisher from inside the ambulance to distract him, so that I think that's what eventually got him into the ambulance, was the distraction. But it was a good match. It was fun.
It was a good match, and like I said, QT won. And after the match, a bunch of fans came up and were kind of physically challenging QT Marshall, and you saw him; he did not back down. He was standing up to them, kind of like, what are you going to do? And they didn't do anything. And then security got them, thankfully, and nothing transpired. But the fans were kind of coming after QT for beating up Penta so badly. It was entertaining. If you have time, there's another AAA, Triple Mania 31, coming up. I forget what city they're in, but it's coming up August 12th. And if you have the time and the money, you should get it because it's going to be a fun show. I bet you. If it's anything like this past Saturday's AAA Triple Mania show was, and the main event was El Hijo del Vikingo versus Kenny Omega, man, fantastic 5-bone match in Tijuana. Just yeah. So like I said, AAA is doing some good stuff. And they have the women in there. They have the women in a battle royal. Had 2 women in there just fighting the men like it's nothing. And the men are punching the women and doing moves to them like it's nothing. And, and it's, you don't see that here. It's very different here. I mean, they're separated. And I think usually, of course, they are in Mexico too, but you don't generally see 2 women in a battle royal here. You'll see one, and they make a huge deal out of it here if she is in a battle royal here.
Yeah.
But here we saw 2, and one of them won. A woman won the battle royal, and they didn't make a huge deal of it like she won. It was just like she won.
Mm-hmm. It was like she won because she was the best competitor.
Yeah.
El Hydra? Or
Hiedra,
Hiedra?
I believe it was. La Hiedra.
La Hiedra.
I believe it was.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, enough about AAA. So also coming up, let's see, on Collision, World Trios titles are going to be on the line on Saturday. The House of Black put their belts on the line against the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass. So the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass busy on Rampage against QTV and busy with a World Trios title match on Collision. Then we get a Blood and Guts hype video, and now it's time. It is time for Blood and Guts. We've got Team Blackpool Combat Club, which is Jon Moxley, Ring of Honor World Champion Claudio Castagnoli. We've got Konosuke Takeshita.
We got Pac. And Wheeler Yuta.
And Wheeler Yuta. And we've got Team Golden Elite, which is Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, Kota Ibushi, and the Young Bucks. So the rules are 2 men start off. They're in for 5 minutes, I believe, and then another man enters. The heel team usually gets the advantage because it wouldn't make sense for the faces to have a 2-on-1 advantage. But so another man enters, and then every 3 minutes another man enters. So the heels have a 2-on-1 advantage. Then it's tied up 2-on-2. Then the heels have a 3-on-2 advantage. Then it's tied up 3-on-3, etc., etc., until we get to 5-on-5. That is when the match actually, quote-unquote, begins. The match cannot end until all 10 men are in. Cannot end at all until all 10 men are in. And then it may only end by submission or surrender. If someone says, that's it, we're done, we can't go on any longer. So, this has been one of my favorite things, and essentially this is this is a copy of WWE's War Games, but it's a great thing to copy. It's one of my favorite things WWE does. It's been one of my favorite things that WCW did, and before them, NWA. It was a creation of Dusty Rhodes in the 1980s. And it's just a great way to settle a feud. And I mean, the double rings with the huge cage around both, it's a great spectacle, and it just makes for a great atmosphere to settle a feud between two teams. And you can make it either a feud between two teams like we're seeing this year, or you can combine several feuds in one like you'll see in other years. But this year it's these two teams facing each other. But yeah, back when I was a kid, it was one of my favorite things. I remember I saw it and I was like, man, most of wrestling is fake, but this has to be real. You know, they're in this steel cage and everybody's bleeding. I was like, this they're really fighting each other, aren't they? So War Games always held it always held a different place, because it was like everything was turned up. The intensity, the rivalries, the blood, everything was turned up to a higher level. So let's get to it. Ring of Honor World Champion Claudio Castagnoli is one of the first two in. Kenny Omega is the other. Claudio hits a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. Omega with some knife-edge chops on Claudio. Claudio takes Omega down with some European uppercuts. Omega hits Claudio with a Hurricane Rana. Pac is next in for a 2-on-1 advantage for Team BCC. Pac nails a series of kicks on Omega. Pac and Claudio push each other out of the way while going for Omega. So they have a 2-on-1 advantage, but they're bickering over who's going to beat up Omega. Hangman Adam Page comes in next to even it up at 2-on-2. He clotheslines Claudio out of one of the rings. He hits Claudio with a springboard lariat. Page hits a top rope moonsault on Claudio. Omega big boots Claudio into the cage and throws him backwards into it twice. Jon Moxley enters to make it 3-on-2. And before we get into that, because the match it changes a bit once Moxley enters, as you can imagine. Kay, what do you think of what we've seen so far?
First of all, I was really impressed with Claudio and Omega, because if I went into a match first knowing that I was going to have to wrestle for an hour, I would not have gone as hard as they did to start off. That first full 5 minutes was like nonstop hard-hitting action, and so I was very impressed with that. When Pac came in with those kicks, like the first thing that popped into my mind is like, that man must never miss a leg day. His legs are like tree trunks, and those kicks look sharp and painful.
Yeah.
One thing so we watched the match twice, and after I watched it the first time on Twitter, I saw that Evil Uno had tweeted like, he's wearing our colors, and so I didn't notice it the first time we watched it, but when Hangman Adam Page came out, he and the Young Bucks were wearing Dark Order colors, which I just felt like was something worth noting, because it seems like an odd, probably intentional choice.
I mean, they look like they're in the Dark Order. They're wearing black, purple, and
white. Yeah.
Hangman and the Young Bucks.
Yeah. And then I thought the announcers, right before Moxley came in, shortly after Hangman came in, the announcers did a really good job pointing out that this rivalry really started with the conflict between Page and Moxley, which this rivalry has been going on for so long that I had actually totally forgotten about this. So I felt very appreciative of them reminding us of this. And really, this all happened before Page had even rejoined the Elite, so it sort of helped reunite Hangman and the Elite this feud. And so it was just nice to have that background reminder. I thought it was a good job of the announcers to think to mention that.
So Jon Moxley enters to make it a 3-on-2 advantage for the Blackpool Combat Club. He has a fork, and he starts stabbing people with it. Starts stabbing Page, then again goes over and starts stabbing Omega. He has another fork for Claudio. Jon Moxley continues on Page. He produces from somewhere, he produces a bag of broken glass and pours it into the ring. Next up, Nick Jackson comes in to make it 3-on-3. Nick Jackson kicks Claudio, hits a stunner on Pac, hits a face buster on Claudio, then goes back through the ropes and hits a diamond cutter on Pac. This was some segment here by Nick Jackson. He was just going back and forth between these two men, weaving through the ropes like I don't know what to compare him to. I don't know.
Like a snake?
Yes, thank you. Weaving through the ropes like a snake, yes.
Yeah.
Nick Jackson Hurricane Rana's Claudio onto the glass. Claudio and Moxley double suplex Omega onto the broken glass. Next up, Wheeler Yuta enters, making it a 4-on-3 advantage for the Blackpool Combat Club. Yuta suplexes Nick Jackson onto a chair. Claudio Castagnoli hits Nick Jackson's head against the turnbuckle pad 20 times, with some rough-looking hits, too, some violent-looking hits. Matt Jackson enters next, making it 4-on-4. So, Kay, what do you have to say leading up to this point?
My only, really sort of big note is, up to this point, we haven't really seen any blood.
Right.
Like, Mox comes out with that fork and forks the crap out of, I think, Omega, and then gives Castagnoli the fork, and he forks Paige, it just seemed odd. Like, because we've seen them get stabbed with forks before and then, like, instantly be fountains of blood. Mm-hmm. And so it just seemed odd. Like, at one point, by the time Yuta comes out, the ref has gloves on, but there's still no, like, easily visible blood. I'm assuming at this point that Omega and Nick Jackson's backs are probably bleeding from the glass. Mm-hmm. But it just seemed, I mean, I kind of appreciated it that they let it go for so long before we got blood, but for a match called Blood and Guts, it took a really long time to see any blood at all. I just feel like that's worth noting because of how odd it is.
So, Matt Jackson enters, making it 4-on-4. He comes in, DDTs Yuta onto a chair. The Young Bucks hit Risky Business, a double team attack onto Jon Moxley. Nick Jackson, Hurricane Rana's Claudio Castagnoli. Takeshita German suplexes both Bucks at once. Stupid. Jon Moxley brings out a bed of nails. A bed of nails. Like from Ripley's Believe It or Not or some shit. A bed of nails. He sets it in the corner. Moxley then, he's fighting Kenny Omega near it, and Moxley drop kicks Kenny Omega into the bed of nails. He then body slams Omega onto the bed of nails. Kota Ibushi enters, and the match is now 5-on-5, and so the match begins. Moxley stomps Omega's hand on the bed of nails. Ibushi kicks Moxley onto the bed of nails and then hits a standing moonsault on him while he's laying on the bed of nails. Castagnoli throws Nick Jackson against the cage, and Jackson lands between the cage and the ring. Looks to have hurt his hip a little. At this point, Moxley is bleeding profusely. Hangman Page hits Moxley with a trash can. And at this point, Yuta is climbing the cage. And before we get to that, what do you have to say about this segment of the match, Kay?
Well, starting from when Matt Jackson entered, he goes right after Pac. I'm sorry, Pac goes right after him as soon as he gets in, and the announcers did another great job of reminding us that the Young Bucks were kind of to blame for breaking Pac's nose during that series of 7 trios matches. And so Pac goes right after him, but Matt just sends him face first into the glass and then fakes a super kick to Yuta after dodging a chair shot by Yuta, and then follows it with a DDT to Yuta onto Yuta's chair. And I just thought that was like a really great sequence of action. So I felt like it was worth noting. One sort of odd thing that I noticed, the chairs that they brought into this weren't the normal wrestling chairs. They were plastic. They had metal framing, but the seat and backing were all plastic. I'd never seen them use that type of chair in a match before. So I don't know if they just didn't bring chairs with them, assuming those would be at the Garden, and these were the only kind that they had. But it just seemed odd. Also, it's worth noting that Don Callis, during this part of the match, joined the men on commentary and was delightful.
Was he?
Yes, I think he's great on commentary. Well, especially when Omega got slammed into the bed of nails, he was just like overjoyed, and it made the moment even better.
So Yuta is climbing the cage. Matt Jackson follows him up, and at this point, I'm just worrying. I hope no one dies, Yeah, it's funny how we react to things differently as we age, because 20 years ago, these two were climbing the cage, and I would have been like, yeah, hell yeah, get up there. And now I'm climbing the cage, I'm just like, be careful. Oh, don't fall, it's so funny. But they both get up there, and Matt Jackson grabs Yuta. He hits 3 Northern Lights suplexes, and he acts as though he's going to throw Yuta off. He doesn't, thankfully. Moxley, back in the ring, down below, Moxley pile drives Ibushi. Yuta gets up after the Northern Lights suplexes, and Yuta climbs back down, and the crowd is booing because he's not getting thrown off of the fucking cage. It's a pretty bloodthirsty crowd they got in Boston. Matt Jackson, I don't know where he got it, but he produces a bag of thumbtacks, and he pours the thumbtacks down into the ring below. Hangman Page and Nick Jackson are in position for Claudio and Pac to pile drive them, but Page and Nick Jackson give both of those men back body drops into the thumbtacks. And then Nick Jackson just starts super kicking everyone. Everyone not on his team, that is. Moxley puts Ibushi in a figure 4 leg lock. Ibushi gives Pac a buckle bomb as the Young Bucks kick him. All at once, that is. Then there's a standing shooting star press by Page, a moonsault by Omega, an elbow drop by Matt Jackson, and a 450 splash by Nick Jackson, all on Pac. They just are destroying this man. Nick Jackson then puts Pac in a sharpshooter, and Matt Jackson puts him in a crossface, both at once. Hangman body slams Moxley into the tacks. And then Pac scales the cage, holds onto it like it's a set of monkey bars, and he drops it down for a stomp on Nick Jackson through a table. Probably the most awesome spot of the match.
Yeah, I agree. And the table was suspended on the ropes between the two rings.
Yeah.
It was neat.
So up to this point, what do you have to say, Kay?
Other than that spot being one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
The only other thing that I really kind of wanted to talk about briefly is, did they being Yuta and Matt Jackson, did they need to go on top of the cage? Like, do you feel like that added to the match? Like, especially going up there and teasing someone getting thrown off and then not throwing someone off? Do you feel like that, I don't know, was necessary or, like, added to the match in a positive way? Because, like, I had mixed feelings about it when they were up there because I was nervous for them. But I assumed when they went up there, someone's coming off that cage. Because when you go to the top of the cage, someone comes off of it, you know? And it didn't really hit me as, like, maybe this wasn't a smart idea to do this spot and then not do the spot everyone expected until the crowd was booing when Yuta was coming back down, which I thought was super messed up. But, like, I can't believe anyone booed anyone during this amazing match. But, I don't know, like, do you feel like that was a smart choice, booking-wise?
No. I mean, right. Don't tease the people with that, you know?
Yeah.
When it's something they've come to expect in these, these blood and guts matches, usually somebody comes off the top.
Yeah.
We saw it with Jericho. We saw it with Sammy Guevara. Even if it's on to padding, somebody comes off the top.
Yeah. Well, I think it was you. We did a watch along with it. But I think it was you that pointed out, like, there's nowhere for someone to land. Like, there wasn't, like, a landing pad area, which you normally see when someone's going to come off a cage, like...
Yeah.
At least nowadays, you know. There's, like with Jericho, the big pile of padding. Or at least, like, tables covered in, like, black tablecloths or something, you know, something to slow the momentum down before you hit the ground. And that wasn't there, so... That was a good observation on your part. So yeah, I just don't... I feel like this match had so much going for it already. They didn't need... I don't feel like they gained anything by going up to the top of the cage.
I mean, it was a good visual. Now, maybe if they had done some more moves up there, sure. But all they did was go up there, do like 3 Northern Light suplexes and drop thumbtacks down below.
And like
and that's it.
The thumbtacks raining down was a really cool visual. So maybe if like Matt had gone up there by himself just to do that and then come back down, that would have been different. But 2 men going up there, like you really expect one to get thrown off, you know?
Yeah, I know.
So I just feel like it was a weird setup that didn't deliver.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you. I agree. So after Pac puts Nick Jackson through a table, after dropping down onto him, the 2 teams regroup, one in either ring, and then they attack. Page hits a lariat on Takeshita. There's a cutter by Jon Moxley on Hangman Page. Kenny Omega snapdragons Pac into the glass. Pac locks Omega in the brutalizer. Claudio Castagnoli does the big swing and then puts Matt Jackson in the sharpshooter. Kota Ibushi comes over and breaks the sharpshooter with some stiff kicks. Takes several kicks to break the sharpshooter that Castagnoli has, but it does. Castagnoli accidentally uppercuts Pac, who's pissed. Castagnoli is going for they're holding someone. Who are they holding? I didn't write it down. They're holding someone.
Are you talking about when he's going for the uppercut?
Yeah.
He's going after Omega, but Omega dodges.
Okay. And so Castagnoli accidentally uppercuts Pac, and Pac is pissed. He flips off Team Blackpool Combat Club, flips them all off. He takes some bolt cutters, cuts the lock off the cage, and leaves. So we're down to 5-on-4. Snapdragon on Claudio. Snapdragon on Takeshita. Kenny Omega is just kicking people's ass now. Hangman Page hits a buckshot lariat on Claudio. Wheeler Yuta gets hit by a buckshot lariat V-trigger special we haven't really seen since the days when Omega and Hangman Page were the World Tag Team Champions.
Yeah, that was awesome to see that again.
That was awesome to see. And then Hangman Page and Nick Jackson, they wrestle down Jon Moxley, who with as much blood as he has on him, he's like a greased hog at this point. But they wrestle him down, and they handcuff him to the ropes in between the rings. It's at this point, things are not looking too great for the Blackpool Combat Club. Don Callis comes in to retrieve Takeshita, seeing that the Blackpool Combat Club are losing. So it's now down to 5-on-3. And if you count the fact that Moxley is incapacitated and handcuffed to the ropes, it's really down to 5-on-2. So Hangman and Matt Jackson take this opportunity to hang Wheeler Yuta with steel chain on the top rope. Like, literally hang the man. It's at this point that Jon Moxley surrenders. He doesn't want them to, I guess, murder Wheeler Yuta, which it looks like they're trying to do. Or it looks like that's what they're heading towards. So to save Wheeler Yuta's life, Jon Moxley surrendered, and the Golden Elite win the match. A terrific match. 5 bones out of 5, no question. I'm trying to think who bled. Moxley bled.
Nick Jackson
bled.
Kenny Omega bled.
Who else? Those are the main ones.
Those are the main ones, yeah. I feel like Moxley bled enough for like 5 people, though.
Do we say Nick Jackson?
Yeah.
Nick Jackson, Kenny Omega. Those were the main ones. So I think a couple others might have, but those were the main ones. It was a hell of a match. Some awesome moves. The top spot was definitely Pac dropping down with the stomp through the table onto Nick Jackson.
Can I add something that you left out?
Yeah.
So
I was going to ask you, what do you have to say about the...
So, it was a great end to the match. It was a little bit confusing at first, because, like, the first time I watched it through, I had missed all those, like, little things that kept happening between Claudio and Pac. And so I'm glad we watched it a second time, because going in knowing that Pac was going to eventually flip them all off and then leave, I got to see those, like, little confrontations happening and building.
And now Claudio and Pac are facing each other for the Ring of Honor, for Claudio's Ring of Honor World Title at Death Before Dishonor Friday night, the 21st.
Yeah, which will be awesome.
Yeah.
So the thing that you didn't mention, at some point after Don Callis pulls out Takeshita, Matt Jackson has enough time to change one of his shoes, because he's wearing a pair of white sneakers, and he takes one off and puts on a Tiffany black Air Force, and that the bottom
puts
of it...
on a what?
Tiffany black Air Force. So, like,
the fuck is that?
So black Air Forces, they're a type of Nike shoe.
Yeah.
And this is a Tiffany one because it's got, like, a Tiffany check swoosh mark, you know?
I see. Tiffany, like
that's what he called it on Instagram. Anyway, he posted a picture of it on Instagram.
Okay. Like the diamonds.
Like the diamonds, yes.
Okay.
Because like their boxes are a very distinct color. Tiffany jewelry store. Okay, it is. It's like color, and so it's the color of the swoosh mark on the Nike shoe. Anyway, the bottom of it is completely covered in tacks, and so he switches that onto his foot as Takeshita's leaving. And then smashes it into the face of Yuta prior to him being choked out by the chain.
I saw that. I wondered what the deal was with that shoe. I guess I didn't notice. Well, last time he had an exploding shoe.
We've seen a tack shoe before. This is just a new tack shoe.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he posted a picture of all the tacks on it and stuff on I think on his Instagram. I saw it on Twitter, but I think
on
it was
Yuta. Was Yuta bleeding?
Yuta must have been bleeding, yeah.
So what do you have to say about the finish?
I thought it was a good look for Moxley to surrender rather than let Yuta be murdered. So good on him.
Yeah.
Can I talk real quick about what happened after the cameras went off?
Sure.
So after the cameras go off, the Blackpool Combat Club, the remaining members that are in the ring, and the Elite, Golden Elite, all shake hands. So do you think that that's a sign that the Elite have finally proved to the Blackpool Combat Club that they are no longer amateurs?
Well, yes.
Because that was like the big thing.
But the one who was shouting that was Bryan Danielson, and he wasn't there to...
Yeah, I'm very curious.
He wasn't there to prove it to, you know?
This felt like the end, right, of this feud. Like, this feels like...
Felt like it to me.
Yeah, and so...
The good guys win.
Yeah, the good guys won. So I'm interested to see what happens next for both of these groups, you know? It'll be a very interesting Dynamite next week to see what happens, because this storyline has been going on for so long. It's like I almost don't remember what came before it, you know?
Right, yeah. And you don't remember what it was like for these guys to have other storylines going on that weren't just them facing each other.
I'm hoping that...
I mean, think about how much more you can get out of the show with these guys involved with other people besides each other, you know?
Yeah. I'm really hoping that Adam Page has a storyline with the Dark Order now. You know, like they can focus on that and it be like an actual thing. Especially with...
Do you want him to be in the Dark Order?
No, I want him to feud with the Dark Order.
To feud with the Dark Order?
I want him and the Young Bucks. So he and the Young Bucks were wearing Dark Order colors.
Yeah.
So, and Evil Uno very specifically pointed it out on Twitter. So I'm hoping that they have a 3-on-3, because there's 3 members of the Dark Order.
It seems like that can't be an accident.
It can't be.
I mean, it looked like they were in the Dark Order.
Yeah.
The way they were dressed. It looked like they were members of the Dark Order.
Yeah.
Somebody had to catch that. That can't have been accidental.
No, I don't think it was accidental.
I don't know.
So, that's what my hope is. Do you have a hope as to something we'll see come out of this?
No, not really. I'm just glad it happened. I enjoyed this whole feud.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it from the time it started to now. I thought it was awesome. I mean, seeing some of the best wrestlers in the world compete against one another, like I said, whether it was in singles matches, tag matches, trios matches, blood and guts matches, whatever. We got so many good matches out of this feud.
Yeah, we did.
That I'm just glad it happened, and I honestly haven't given any thought to the future. I'm still been reflecting on the blood and guts match and just thinking about the whole feud and appreciating the fact that we got to see it. And,
do you think Ibushi's going to stick around, or do you think this is just a one-off?
I have no idea. Yeah. I'm not going to pretend to know anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about the guy. I know he and Kenny Omega are the Golden Lovers, and that's about all I know about the guy. This was the first time I've ever seen him. I don't know anything about his contract status in Japan or anything, so I have no idea. He seemed pretty good to me from what I saw. He seemed pretty good. So that would be cool if he stuck around. What would I like to see out of this? Just really, I guess one of the bigger things is, I think Wheeler Yuta has really elevated himself in the company. That's a big thing that's come out of this.
I was just thinking, I would like the Blackpool Combat Club to get a new member to be their fall guy, to take it off of Yuta's shoulders.
I mean, Yuta he's come through, and he's just very skilled, and he's come through in a lot of ways for them, and been in some good matches, and just had a very good match against Kenny Omega 2 or 3 weeks ago. Was very good in this match. Took a lot of stuff in this match. So that's one thing I'd like to see is Wheeler Yuta get a kind of a bump up, whether it's a belt or whatever, just get an increased position in the company.
So speaking of belts,
and wait, I'm gonna say one last thing. I'd like to see Kenny Omega go back after being in the world title scene.
Okay.
Because, and nothing against MJF, but I want to see Kenny Omega and CM Punk for the world title. I want to see that.
You're never going to see that.
I want to see that. I think a lot of people would love to see that.
Is that a thing that can happen?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope they can figure out shit and work together, and I would love to see CM Punk and Kenny Omega for the world title. That's a dream of mine.
Well, that was going to be my question, was with this ongoing forever long feud between these two factions, no one in these factions has been going after a belt this whole time. So my question was going to be, what belts do you want them to now pursue? So we got Omega with the world title. Anyone else with a belt in mind that you want to see them go after? Because with the numbers they have, they could go after the trios or the tag or a singles belt. So we got all options available to us.
Yeah. Well, the trios, we've kind of got people I like going after them right now. We've got the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass going after the House of Black. And I like the House of Black having the belts. And if someone's going to beat them, I would kind of like it to be the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass. So I'm not going to name anybody going for the trios belts. And I think CM Punk and FTR would make a good team. I think FTR should drop the tag belts and maybe go into trios a little more with CM Punk and do CM FTR. Let's see, what else would I like? I guess I'd like to see Kenny Omega go after the world title. John Moxley obviously needs to be in the world title scene, and in main event matches, just in versus main eventers. Doesn't need to be fighting for the world title because not everybody can, but he needs to be up there with the MJFs and whomever. I'm trying to think where Hangman Adam Page should go. It's tough. It's tough. That's a good question that I'd have to think about more than right now to give you a good answer on, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's a great question. But I don't want to take up time just sitting here and thinking.
Yeah.
Besides the answer I can give you, Kenny Omega should be in the world title picture, no doubts. And past that, I don't really have an answer for you. I hate to say. Maybe Wheeler Yuta somewhere in the international title picture. I could see that.
So you're not going to like my answer, but I'd like to see him go after his Ring of Honor Pure Championship.
I was going to say that.
Really? Okay. I thought you were going to not before that.
Could be Ring of Honor Pure.
Because he was good at that,
But I think the AEW International title would be a step up. So I think maybe the AEW International title would be something to go after. He would be a good guy to beat Orange Cassidy, Wheeler Yuta, I feel like. That would be a big thing for him. So that would be cool. A nice way to reward Yuta. Like I said, Moxley just needs to be in the main events. Moxley, MJF, CM Punk, Kenny Omega. These are guys that need to be in the main events. Just as long as they're up there. Hangman Page obviously needs to be in the main events. Chris Jericho. These are your main eventers. Singles stuff. I want to see Omega in singles matches. I want to see Hangman Page in singles matches. Moxley in singles matches. Danielson, when he returns, in singles matches. So stop with the tag team stuff and the trio stuff. Have them in singles matches. The Bucks obviously going after the tag team titles. The tag division needs a little revitalization right now because the whole blind tag team tournament has kind of thrown cold water on the tag team division because they've been so busy with this tournament that the real tag teams haven't gotten a chance to fight much lately. So having the Young Bucks back in the tag division would be nice. You got FTR, Bullet Club Gold, Young Bucks, throwing them back in, having the Ring of Honor tag champs, Lucha Brothers, come, try and win both sets of belts. That'd be cool. Have all four of those teams together as your main tag teams. That would be sweet.
And the Guns.
Yeah, as your fifth option. Yeah, throw those choices together in matches. Would be great. I guess I am giving you some answers here. Let me see. Ibushi, like I said, I don't know him well enough to answer anything about him. Who else is on the Hangman Page? Needs to be in the main event picture for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ibushi, Omega, Castagnoli. Has the Ring of Honor World title. I could see him being in the international title picture in AEW. I don't think he necessarily has to be a main event guy. Not everybody can be in the main event picture. I could see him being in the international main event. I could see him having a long international title reign. Castagnoli. I could see that happening. As of course, sort of the upper mid-carder guy. That's what he's been most of his time, is the upper mid-carder guy. So who have I got? Moxley, Castagnoli. Yuta. That's it.
That's it.
Went through everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. Yeah, I was just curious what your...
But yeah, and Danielson, when he's healthy, if I had to name, when Danielson gets healthy, the world title scene should be Bryan Danielson, MJF, CM Punk, Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley.
You're not putting MJF in that?
I said MJF.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay, I missed that. I'm sorry.
Probably... Probably Hangman Adam Page.
Not Adam Cole, though.
If I had to name 6, no. Mm-hmm. If I had to keep it to 6, which is a number I just came up with for why not, then no. If I had to even name 7, I would probably put Chris Jericho ahead of Cole.
I would put Orange Cassidy in there.
I think it might be time for him. He's shown, and a lot of people still write him off as a comic wrestler. I see it on the internet all the time. But I don't care what those people say, because anybody with 2 eyes and a brain can see that he has really shown that he's much more than a comic wrestler. He's for real. I mean, this guy is a star. Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
With his international title reigns, it's not just one of the best things in AEW. It's one of the best things in U.S. wrestling in years. His international title reign.
And what it's done for the title.
Yeah. I mean, he's just not single-handedly, but he and his opponents in those matches have just upped that title's value like crazy, to the point where it's going to be a big deal when he loses it. It's going to be a sad day when he loses it, too, because he's been such a fighting champion, such a good champion. Like, he is the reason that there are belts in wrestling. The way that they have helped his character is the reason that there are belts in wrestling. Where it's been something to fight for, it's been something for him to fight for, and even a character where he's so, hey, that's enough. That's our dog. Even a character who's so oblivious and doesn't seem like he cares about enough to fight for things. In the ring, it's a different story where he's fighting his ass off for his belt. And then out of the ring, he's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
But we know he cares because he's in the ring fighting his ass off and getting a different body part hurt every week.
Yeah.
For how much he cares. And he cares so much, he's getting the international title over like crazy. And getting himself over like crazy in the process, and proving himself as a world class as a world class wrestler, showing he can really do way more than comedy. I mean, Orange Cassidy, I can't say enough good about him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's why I was saying I would put him in the...
Yeah, I mean, it's
big title shot.
It's about time. Yeah, it's about time. Yep. So we got a little off, but whatever. That's fine. That's fine. Well, folks, this has been No Bones About Wrestling. This has been our AEW Dynamite Blood and Guts review and recap. I hope you enjoyed it. We always do Thursday Dynamite review, and Sunday we do our Collision reviews. This week you will hear from us on Saturday. We'll have a Death by Dishonor.
Death Before Dishonor.
Oh yeah, Death Before Dishonor recap up. If you have time, we just today put our Death Before Dishonor preview and predictions up. The show is tomorrow, Friday. So listen to the predictions if you care to. It's a pretty fun show, if I say myself. And we are on Last Week in Wrestling show tonight at 7 o'clock. If you listen to this immediately, we're on there tonight at 7 o'clock talking about stuff. Tonight is Thursday, the 20th. We're on there tonight at 7 talking about stuff. And just wherever you listen to podcasts, subscribe to us so you don't miss a show. And you can check us out on YouTube. We have videos on there of me collecting the AEW trading cards. We have me opening the AEW Elite crates that we get sent with lots of neat stuff in them. Go check it out. We also put our podcasts on YouTube if you want to check them out on there. Not video, just the audio. And rate us wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate us 5 bones, 5 stars, whatever they'll let you give us. Rate us. It helps us find new fans, and then we can all talk to each other about wrestling and have a little community and have fun like that. So, folks, thanks very much for listening. And as Mick Foley would say, have a nice day. Bye.